Hi. So I wanted to show off my bird deck. This deck I just got Mythic with earlier, which I think is the highest rank. It was a pretty fun deck to play, very tempo-y, which is something I'm not really used to from Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, there are tempo Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks where it's like you have, this one disruption, this one turn, and if you don't win, you have nothing else and you die, right? But most stuff is more like super aggressive or super like can play the long game and is ready to play that long game. But this is a good mix of like a deck that wants to. It's more mid-rangey, but almost a little lower than mid-range. You don't have that like you don't have any like plus ones really in the whole deck at all. There's just nothing that like, gives you more cards. I mean the main card in my experience is the Alchemy exclusive card Awestruck Signet. Where it's intensity card, so you start with 0 and every time a flying monster is summoned where you control this card goes up 1. If it's a 3, and also they share that stat, right? So if you have 2 on the field, then you summon 1, you gain 2, because that's 1, 2, which is really nice. But if you get to 3 stacks, they become a 5/4 with flying and vigilance, which is your highest attack bird. And anything with a lot of attack and flying is going to be nice, for sure. And then Unsummon came in handy super a lot, because it's just a way you can disrupt the opponent and slow them down. You can, if it's mono red and they target something, you can, say, nope, you're not targeting that, actually. Or even in that Thief deck, you can say, actually, I want my monster back, because it goes back to the owner's hand. And it's like, no, I'll take my bird back actually. And it's yours now, right? So I think this is a really good anti-meta pick right now. Most blue decks should be running it if they can. And then Mockingbird duplicates any of my birds, or even the opponent monsters if I want to. But usually I'm duplicating the Signet, the Quest Caller, or even the Interrupter at times, which I'll get into later. But the reason why you duplicate Quest Caller sometimes, if you really want to have like that, swarmy, like almost rabbit style, like a field of multiple birds, and they all have like +1, +1, right? And that stacks super, super well, right? You get, the Mockingbird keeps flying, so a Quest Caller with flying is really nice to be able to, keep swinging every turn. And the stat line is just really nice for sure too. And it helps. They give each other the +1 as well. So if you duplicate it, it becomes 3/4. And 3/4, you're reaching that threshold of like most things do 3 damage right now. Obviously like things like from black will just remove things, but I really value a lot the 3 or 4 defense stuff against like shock and lightning helix and abrade and all those instants that just do 3 damage. Even Virtue of Persistence, another one of those that does 3 damage, or lowers your toughness by 3. That I like being able to say, you know what, I'm gonna go up to 4 and avoid all those. Another anti-meta pick right now, Dazzling Denial. I know counterspells aren't the best right now, but there's some really good hits with this card where you can usually hit the mana filled mouse, right? Because if they don't have that, they lose like half their damage, right? On mono red. It's very strong against the Thief deck. You hit the Triumphant Getaway if you can. Or even in I was facing some like odd green decks I'm not too familiar with. And I would just always hit their like whatever their engine card was, right? Whether it was like the dinosaur deck and it was like the really good mana rock, the 2/2 one, or just something else. It was always something that's worth hitting, because there's a reason they're playing those cards, right? You want to counter them. So I'd say it's worth running in this meta, but I get why people they're cutting counter spells and trying to trade blows with more unsummon cards. This is a really good card too. Plum Creed Escort. That's another one of the those like quick effect, like the counter spell. You kind of save mana for, even on summon. You save mana for either on the opponent's turn usually, or even on your own, whenever you need to protect one of your monsters, right? You give a hexproof, and it's a solid, oh, you have that removal spell, I have this. And then you keep your monster and get this one in the field. It's, technically it's a +1 if you think about it like that, but it doesn't, you know, I know I said there's no +1s, but technically an interaction that, you know, loses the opponent a card at the end of the day. And then like Jackdaw Savior, I would say this actually, I expected more from this card. I think it's not very good in this meta because so much stuff is exile focused. Right, where there are times it comes up with like, oh, reviving a signet, and then it already has like 2 intensity, it's so close, right? But usually things are being exiled and you just don't get to revive anything. If I had this land in, which I'll get to this sideboard more later, but this land would have helped a lot. I think I should have had this in. But I did not, right? I just stuck with the Jackdaw Savior, and it was underwhelming, but it was a good, you know, 3/1 stats is fine. Yeah, I don't know if I'd keep that card looking and trying to play again. But Avian Interrupter, the complete opposite of Jackdaw, the star of the deck in my opinion. It is broken against the Thief deck. It is really nice against mono red because they have a lot of plotting right now, and even some of those green decks, they, you know, you do see they plot as well with their Rhino and their Outlaw guy, whatever he is, 4/2, whatever that thing is. They all plot, or they summon from exile, or use things from exile, right, rather. And being able to say, no, I want to slow this duel down a bit. We're gonna, you know, you can use that next turn, but you have to pay 2 more. Or maybe you Mockingbird it and say, okay, now it's 4 more. Maybe you have 2 in hand, and you say, okay, now it's 6 more. And it's like, when it gets to that 6 mana, even for a plotted thing, which is like, starts with 0, the duels don't really last that long usually, right? You're usually gonna end right around that turn 6 point, if you're lucky. Maybe turn 7, if they have, you know, a land drop every time, which they're unlikely to get as well. So I'd say it's a very solid card, at least in this meta. For that, you know, you want to close out the game before the opponent can use everything. Same with like Unsummon, how it's like, that's the philosophy behind the deck, right? We're playing not to out-resource the opponent, but to beat them before they can use every card in their hand. Which it feels a lot more like mono red in a way, even though it's not as fast. It's more like a control-y hybrid, right? That's what tempo is. And then Thieving Aven, oh, this actually, I'm wrong. This is the 1/1 in the deck, right? So every time you deal combat damage with this, you get to, you know, take your opponent's card and yoink it and use it, if you pay the mana cost. Really good in the Thief deck. In this one, it's okay. You're not focused on it, so it's not going to sack 1/1 counters because it gains it to use one of their cards. But it's a bird. It's got 1/4. Unlikely to remove that easily. I like the card. I'm mainly running it honestly because of the toughness and because I wanted something a bit more tanky. I originally had been running Castrel, the Wind-Crested, 5 cost. Really, like, I like the art a lot. I like the card's effect, but the 5 cost is just too much for this deck. This is much more of a close out the game early, so not running it. And then Patchwork Banner, the last card before the lands, is just, you know, gives another mana to use on later turns. You pay 3. Hopefully it's worth it. Usually it was for me, but this card I can see cutting for sure. The +1 to each of your stats besides the quest caller, it's just very strong. I think it's very, you know, when you get, you know, this and a quest caller, then you're really talking big numbers. And when you put big numbers on fires, it becomes a lot more scary. So I like it, but again, I wouldn't say it's a must-have. Then Lupin Fire Village, the best land in the deck, I would say. Because, you know, this, if you have 20 lands, which this deck is running 22 lands, which is a bit on the higher end. I had like 59 cards, and I was like, what do I add? I don't know. I'll just put another land in, you know, maybe it's 58, I don't know. So it's 2022. You could lower that for sure, especially if you put cards like Spyglass Siren in, which, as much as it's not a bird, it'll, you know, give you a map token. Maybe you can get another land quicker, and you know, won't feel as low. But I'm running with 22, and it worked. But Lumenflower Village was the best one because it would replace itself with a bird from the top of your deck, right? Or even the quest caller if you happen to see that. This did whiff for me once and was kind of sad, but you're running so many birds. There's only like this one and this one and this one are the only non-things that you can't add, right? Everything else you're gonna add. So it shouldn't whiff often. I was very unlucky that one time. Well, in the lands, I guess, of course, too. But yeah, you'll mostly just be able to trade this for one of your birds. Plains, just add off of passage. Yeah, island, same thing. But Restless Anchorage, I think, was underwhelming to me. I did not think about Calvin Souls clashing with it, right? You so rarely had, and same with Lupin Fire Village, because you can only spend the white mana to cast creature spells. But this requires white and blue mana on top of it. So most games I could not summon this without using its own mana. So I'd say probably cut this if you're playing the deck. Nice to be able to summon a bird, and you know it does gain the buffs of the quest caller and the patchwork, but you don't trigger the effects of Signet because it's not going to be summoned. Sorry, it's not technically being summoned. It's just on the field already. So I think in hindsight, I'd probably not run this again. But I had the card. I'd only have so many of the other ones, so I'll keep it in for now. Right? I like having consistency and predictability. But I was worried about the you do run out of resources. I was thinking maybe I'll have extra resource or extra turn. I can close it out with this, right? But in reality, it did not come up much. I also originally tried out Harrier Strix. I think there's some really cute situations where the tap can work out, but usually this is just going to be a 1/1 with flying, a very underwhelming card. Would not recommend. The draw card and discard, it's cute, but again, just not high enough impact at all. Same with Miner's Guidewing. If this explored on summon, it would be much better. Because like the vigilance access is nice. But it's just it'd be expendable, but not very valuable, right? And most things have 2 defense anyways that you care about right now. So there are 2 or more really. But yeah, it's just not. I wouldn't run those. Spyglass Siren I think is more of an option to run. I didn't run into any mirrors, but I ran into one other blue tempo deck running Spyglass Siren, and I think it was an interesting tech. Deduce, I think this is okay if you wanted more pluses in the deck, but doesn't need it. Maybe not this meta, maybe next meta you want to throw that in birds. And then Thopterist, another Alchemy exclusive. Definitely probably worth running, I just didn't want to, because I wanted to stick to my birds. But this is super strong with Mockingbird, right? You duplicate Thopterist, and if you're going to have one, you might as well have 2, right? Because then you give all your your Ornithopters plus 2 more attack, and you get +1 Ornithopter every turn extra, which is just a solid card to dupe. But again, this is just not what it's going for. I wanted a bit more interaction with my opponent's cards, and this is how you do it, right? You do it with this, this, and this. If I were to run this, I'd probably have to cut the Savior, but I would actually consider a different card instead of Flash for Dark Blocking. Yes, I'd probably run Strike Force. Strike Force, it does have low attack at first, right? It's there's 2 attack, right? But keep in mind we have Quest Caller and we have Patchwork Banner, and I think this is actually a solid card had I ran this. Because, if you have just one of those buffing, it does 4 damage every turn, which is on par with a Jackdaw, as well as having that extra defense, right? And protection. Jackdaw is definitely so nice when you have to give up a monster, or when they destroy something with a Get Lost or something, and you have another thing in the grave. But because I wasn't running the Surveil land, it just wasn't useful, and I think Strike Force is a solid card to add. Same with Sleight of Hand. I think if you're going for a more Mockingbird focused deck of wanting to see Thopterist or wanting to see Signet and Mockingbird, or even Quest Callers, spamming Quest Callers is a solid strategy because they all buff each other up. And with Mockingbird, even more. It's nice, but I was looking for more immediate value for sure. But yes, the sleight of hand is a good pick, but like I said, it's just not as immediately effective, right? Parting Gift, I think this is a solid card, definitely in consideration. I didn't run it because it competes with Lupin Flower Village, right? Because it's a non-creature white mana spell. This deck runs none, so you could run Lupin Flower. But if you wanted to say keep Anchorage, you could, run Parting Gift, and it's a great card. You don't really care about the fish, or you can use it in your own thing. Dodge the same way you can with Unsummon or Plume Creed, and get a nice little +1, right? Just a solid card all around. Paths of Toonville, another alchemy card. I think this is really worth it. I just didn't really. I was worried that the upsides would not be frequent enough to make it worth running. Mainly because for maximum value, you want to each have a creature, which happens a lot with birds, but not always, right? So you want to be able to bounce something you control and something they control. Ideally, when they target you, or when they target themselves, but mostly when they target you, and that's how you get value. But I didn't want to play too much into that removal aspect because, like I said, I had a lot of decent defense already with the Quest Caller and the Aven, and then the Escort is going to protect them already. So I'd rather have the body usually than the making them lose a body. Because, I mean, they can hit you for 10, they can hit you for 12, it doesn't matter. As long as you have just a few more HP, it's okay. So, I preferred, the Escort and then slot over it, but still a really nice removal with, that cope. If you cope enough, it's got, the best value out of any card you could run. Nice instant access. Then lastly, like I said, the Surveil Land, I think this is optimal if you're running Jackdaw. I just didn't want to make them, which, it's tough. It's tough in this game, trying to get enough wild cards for the lands. But yeah, that's kind of the deck. Thanks for checking it out, and yeah, I don't know if it'll be very good after they release the next pack, but I just wanted to, get to the max rank with with one of the Bloomburrow cards sets, and I wanted it to be something that what's the word? Was a bit less meta. Like, I know, like, Mice I could have done it with, right? Mice was really good, but I don't know. I like playing more off-meta, anti-meta, rogue stuff, and this was fun. So yeah, good luck to everyone, and keep on magicking and gathering. Bye-bye.